Mini Motorways tips. These are some tips and tricks for the game Mini Motorways. And these are some of the best tips that I'm going to give. Number one, try to build a road around the outside of the city, circumnavigating it to reduce traffic congestion. So you can see on this particular map, on the northeast, there's a road that I built that doesn't circumnavigate, but it keeps the cars away from some of the other cars. They have their own road that they don't have to mix in with the other traffic. And here's an example where I did it with the blue. I could have sent in the north the blue houses to go along the same road as the yellow, the pink, and the gray, but I built a road going around to reduce the traffic. This is one where I did it in the south. I made a road going across with a few bridges so that cars can use it if they want to, and I have something in the north also. Here's an example where I did it in the northeast. I've got a long road going across just to keep traffic separate from the other vehicles. We'll see if I got anything else interesting here. And here again, I did it in the south. In order to lighten up the traffic on the road that I'm pointing to, I built another road beneath it. Now over here, what I did was I drew lines, for example, connecting gray to gray to give you an idea of where the cars have to go back and forth. And you want to make sure, in this case, that the gray has some sort of a dedicated path to get from the houses to the buildings. In this particular case, I don't have one, probably because I have a shortage of pieces. But what it would have done is it would have gotten them there faster. So here's another case where we see that the green houses and the green buildings, for the most part, are over here. And in the south, I've got a dedicated path for the green houses to get to the green buildings. But in the north, I don't. They share with the yellow. And the reason why was probably because I didn't have enough pieces. The other thing I do is I don't make a lot of square corners. What I do is I make an angle. Maybe there'll be a square corner, and I'll also make an angle so that the greenhouses would be able to get to where they're going faster. Here's an example where it's showing different houses. And you see the greenhouses? You'll notice that one greenhouse, his car gets mixed in with the red, and you really want to avoid doing that. And I'm not saying you never do it, but you want to avoid doing it. And the reason why is because he might have a motorway that takes him across the map, and then that house has a disadvantage because he's no longer on the same system. So for the red, the house that I'm pointing to with the mouse, which is on the left in the middle, I would turn it to the right, and the one that's at the top, I would have it point directly downward so that all the red cars go to the same area. If I had a motorway here, that they would all get on. Now, obviously, it creates more congestion. You can create two spines going through your houses. But if you need to get them all onto the same motorway or in the same direction, it's also a good idea. So when I'm playing the game, I try to look. The yellow houses are connected this way, the yellow workplaces. This particular map doesn't have a direct route. It kind of does. It comes on motorway 4, and then it hooks around here. But the houses that are in the middle, they don't have a direct route to get to these yellow workplaces. So what happened was it caused a lot of congestion because they're sharing roads with other vehicles. What I should have done was made some sort of a route so that they can get over to there and only contains yellow vehicles. In the beginning of the game, it's actually very easy to do, but later in the game, it's more difficult. The other thing that I do is I watch the motorways to see if they get a lot of traffic. If they don't get a lot of cars, I reposition it and put it somewhere else. Try to build bridges in rivers along their path to increase land available for houses. Let's see if I can find an example. I don't think I have one. All these bridges are going straight across, but you don't have to do it that way. You can build the bridge so that it goes in the river. You use one bridge piece, and then it makes more land available for houses, and then you don't need the road piece. The other thing you can do is you've got the ocean over here. You can use a bridge piece and then build to circumnavigate around the ocean. But every time you reconnect to the land, you're going to use up a bridge piece. So that's one of the things that I tested. It wasn't oh, here's an example where I did it over here on the west side, where I went over the ocean to build the bridge. Try to build alternate routes with fewer intersections. The AI will direct traffic on faster routes, even though they are not shorter routes. So here's an example where the yellow probably originally went through the blue, past the gray building, into the pink, and then to the yellow, and then I built an alternate route to the north, and now all the yellow's going on that route. And the algorithm doesn't always take the shorter path, it will take the faster path. Looking for another one, obviously, that has an alternate route. So my recent games are far more complex, but I did not save copies of the games. So over here is an example where I have a motorway and I've got an alternate route to the right of it, which is adjacent to it. And sometimes the vehicles that go over the motorway, sometimes they will take the alternate route. They will do it sometimes. They won't do it because of traffic congestion, but they'll do it for other reasons. I've seen them do it before. Here's an example where you see where the blue is. I built a route just for the blue to get to these two blue houses. Pause the game often and look for new houses that are not connected. If you look through my maps, you'll see occasionally that there is a house, like here's one right here that I'm pointing to with the mouse. There's a gray house next to the river that is not connected. And I guess I forgot to do it. Build underpasses to bypass motorway connections. So the underpass is very useful. Here's another house that's not connected. Well, I don't see where I built the underpass. Maybe it's here on page 2. Eventually, I'll add a page with information about it. But basically what you do is, you see over here, I'm pointing with the mouse, there is a motorway. You just build the road going around it so that they could get on the motorway or they could go around it. And you don't have to do it going around the outside. You could do it underneath the motorway. So over here on the left is an example where I could build well, there's a house here, but I could have built a road going around it. Maybe it's on my Beijing maps. I know it's here. I was looking at it earlier. It's in my other tips video. But basically, it's going to look like what I'm pointing at with the mini mouse, with the mouse. It's going to just make a little hook around, and you do it going around the motorway. Okay. Use both entrances to buildings that have 2 entrances. So if you have 2 entrances, you want to make sure that vehicles come in from one side and vehicles go in to the other side, because they can become congested very easily, and you're going to lose games if all the vehicles try to go in on the same side. Try to build multiple routes to reduce congestion. I've already gone through these maps many times. The only example of multiple routes is, for example, where I built motorway number 4. You have a route that comes through here, but they could also take motorway 4 to get there faster. And one of the reasons why you do this, the red will take the other route sometimes, but the other reason why is because you might move motorway 4 and you might prevent your traffic from getting to where they need to go, not realizing you made traffic worse. So that's why you want to have alternate routes, especially if you got pieces. It looks like in this case I've got 173 pieces, which means I had plenty. This is another example where you can see that I circumnavigated the majority of the map. I made a route going almost all the way around. Even if a few cars use it, it reduces congestion in the center of the map, which is basically what you need to do to win the game. Okay, so those are my mini motorways tips, and these are some of my top tips. You can go to cheapbooks.cc and look under video games, look for mini motorways to read my other tips and my guides and tutorials. And I also am the owner of cheapbooks.com, which is a website for books and textbooks. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.